All right, so this will be the first of 12 weeks of hour-long coaching every Thursday through the PRI content. We're going to film them all, we're going to put them on YouTube, and then as we bring on new coaches in the future, they'll watch these and read through the documents that Chuck and I are creating and have created. And the purpose is to help our staff to kind of have a basic level understanding of where we're going from a movement standpoint as a business and where we want our clients to be able to go and understand. So you guys are going to be way ahead of the game after these 12 weeks, and you're going to know way more movement-wise than you do now, hopefully. So I want to start by telling you guys a story of how we got into this Postural Restoration Institute stuff and kind of where it's come from and where it's at now, where we're going with it. So 2017, 2 years ago, Eric came to me and he was like, dude, I found this thing that you have to start getting involved in. And Eric was at a place in his career where he was really frustrated with a patient of his that had back pain. He was like, I tried everything in the book to fix this patient and nothing worked. He still has pain, I can't solve it. And he started using some of this PRI stuff that he was reading about online, and it just like worked crazy well. So he took his first course, second course, third course. He took all the primary 3 courses, and he's like, Matt, you've got to start taking these courses. So I took the first one online. I was like, I don't really understand what's going on here. Took the second one online, still kind of was like, okay, I feel like I understand a little more, but not all the way. And then I took the third one, which is the final of the 3 of the primary courses, and I was like, this just makes sense. It all kind of came together, and felt like, man, this could totally change how we work with clients, how we teach people how to move. And now, fast forward a year, Chuck and I and Emily and Dan have gone to the PRI integration for fitness professionals. We learned a ton, and we're going to start applying it into sessions, into how we coach people. I think it's going to reduce injuries, it's going to help stress levels, and it's going to help with performance, it's going to help people to lose weight better. All the things that our clients want to accomplish, this stuff is going to help us to get there. Cool. So what is PRI? So the Postural Restoration Institute was founded in the 1980s by this dude named Ron Hureska, and he started working at like a back pain clinic using a very non-conventional approach, and was just having wild success with his patients, and brought on this other guy named James Anderson. They started working together, and they're kind of like the 2 head honchos of the Postural Restoration Institute. You got to hear James speak last year, and I got to hear him speak this year, which was really cool. So the Postural Restoration approach, or the Institute, is in Nebraska, and they teach courses all around the United States. Mainly, they have like 3 main courses. One of them is called Myokinematic Restoration, one's called Postural Restoration, and the third one is called Pelvic Restoration. Those are the 3 primary courses that they use for all their curriculum. They have some advanced courses. They have 2 certifications, one for like personal trainers, one for physical therapists, and like medical professionals. And the therapists that understand the PRI approach really well are really good at treating their patients. So as we've started incorporating more and more of the PRI stuff into how we treat patients, it's amazing to see how much better we are at helping people, which is cool. So PRI is all about helping people to get their bodies to a position and place where they can rest well. And a big part of resting well is what?
Being relaxed, breathing.
Breathing, yeah. A big part of how we rest is how we breathe. And if you breathe in a way that puts your body and pushes you towards a state of rest, you're going to be a lot more likely to get to a state of rest. And so all the stuff we've been talking about as a business is getting people, getting their bodies to a place where they function like they're designed to function. And most of the time our bodies should be resting. It's like when we're sleeping, we're resting. When we're eating, we're setting our body up with the necessary macronutrients and micronutrients so that it can repair. and recover. When we get sunshine, it's so that it facilitates a normal circadian rhythm. When we breathe, it's supposed to feed into our rest and digest system. Even our exercise should set us up to like repair and come back stronger. But unfortunately, we live in a world today where we get beaten down with things like what? Traffic, yeah, the stress of traffic. What else? What things facilitate inflammation, stress?
Bad food.
Bad food, like what?
Chips.
Chips.
Not yet, they chips.
No. I'm not gonna grab my water.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah, sugar, vegetable oil.
Yep.
Lack of sleep.
Lack of sleep. What are some of the other Marxism things?
Chronic cardio.
Chronic cardio, yes. So the modern pills, injections, like surgery is super stressful. The modern health and fitness world is pushing people to overstress, and unfortunately it like kind of works temporarily for weight loss, for improving your energy, but eventually people get burned out and they go back to usually doing nothing and eating poorly. So PRI fits into our paradigm at Village, where we want people to be able to rest well. We want everything that they do in life to create an environment that pushes them back towards how their body was designed to move, to live, to be. And so from a movement standpoint, of anything we've learned about so far, PRI makes the most sense. So good movement is good breathing. That should be a big takeaway for you guys from today. Good breathing is good movement is good breathing. And the whole like PRI approach is founded upon breathing. Cool. All right, so we're going to jump into talking about the nervous system. So in our nervous system, there's two divisions. There's a central nervous system and a peripheral nervous system. So do you guys know what's in the central nervous system?
Brain. Spinal cord.
And then what is in the peripheral nervous system?
The outside.
Well put.
What?
It's everything on the outside.
Everything else. It's the innervation of our organs, our muscles, you know, all that stuff. Heart, muscles. Yeah, this is a bicep, by the way.
God.
Thanks for explaining.
And then the peripheral nervous system is broken up into autonomic and somatic.
Back.
Sorry, sensory and motor, and the motor division is autonomic and somatic. Really where we're going is the two divisions of the peripheral nervous system, which are parasympathetic and sympathetic. So do you guys know the difference between those two? What's, in your mind, what are things that the parasympathetic is responsible for?
Recovery.
Rest and digest. Or is that the other one?
No, you're right.
What about the sympathetic nervous system?
Fight or flight.
You didn't been in any like exercise science classes before, have you?
No.
Is one of them good and one of them bad?
No. No, they just need to exist in balance with each other.
Yeah, balance, right? We need our sympathetic nervous system to handle driving in the car when it's like a stressful situation comes, somebody cuts us off, we've got to react really quickly and like, you know, swerve. That's probably a sympathetic driven activity.
You see a lion, what are you supposed to do?
You run away.
Run away, run fast.
Fight. Yeah, so these two nervous systems exist together in our bodies, hardwired within us to enable us to respond dynamically to all situations in life, stressful situations. But because of all those things we talked about, we tend to get pigeonholed into the sympathetic nervous system far too often. One of the big things that pushes us towards sympathetic is the omega-3, omega-6 ratio. So omega-6s are like the gas pedal for the inflammatory response in the body, and because of the way our meat is sourced, because of the way we eat grains, and because we don't eat foods that are rich in omega-3s, that nervous system, that part of our body tends to get jacked up way more often than it should. Add to that modern day stress, constantly being connected to technology, looking at a screen from the moment we wake up till the moment we go to bed, not getting out in the sun, over-exercising or not exercising at all, and you have a recipe for like getting stuck in sympathetic mode. So I'd say like 99% of the people that walk in our doors are probably like overly sympathetic driven, even if they don't look like it. I mean, I'm sure we all are to some degree at some point in our lives, like overly sympathetic driven. And so we've been learning all this stuff as a staff, like how do we get back to a state of rest? How do we create jobs for people that allow them to rest well? But we're still figuring it out. We by no means have this all figured out, but this is a big part of it. It's like, how do we get people to move in a way that facilitates an environment of rest? And a big part of it is their breathing, creating an environment where their body moves like it was made to move. So let me read you guys some stuff about the nervous systems. So parasympathetic constricts the pupils, stimulates salivation, inhibits the heart, constricts the lungs, stimulates digestive activity, the gallbladder, the bladder, and relaxes the rectum. Sympathetic dilates our pupils, inhibits salivation, not salvation, salivation, accelerates the heart, inhibits digestive activity, stimulates glucose release by the liver, that can be good. Secretion of epinephrine and norepinephrine from the kidneys relaxes the bladder and contracts the rectum. Zip.
Is that the sound you make when you don't want food?
Pretty much. What questions do you guys have about this first part? Is that enough of an understanding of the nervous system? Yes. Any questions about that? I mean, pretty simply, it's like it's split. We have two functions. If you think of it like a town, it's like there's soldiers and there's villagers. And we need them both. Like if this town is in the medieval times, like you need soldiers and you need villagers, because the soldiers can go fight, they can protect, and the villagers can repair, restore. But if you had all villagers in a town, it's like, well, that's not good, because if somebody comes and attacks, you're screwed. But if you have all soldiers, it's like, well, you never have time to repair and recover. You know, that's not good either, because you're going to be chronically like fighting and never stockpiling and repairing and rejuvenating.
Maybe you can talk about how the glucose is released during the sympathetic and why that's bad.
Glucose is released during the sympathetic. Well, yes, my understanding of it is that when we get in a stressful state, our body stimulates the release of glucose so that we could do something intense, like run away from a snake or lion. That's our joke with our toddler. We taught him like things he runs away from. One of them is snakes. What do we do when we see a snake?
Run away.
We run away. Anyways, so our body is like ready to do this really intense thing. So if you get all jacked up and you're like about to do a heavy deadlift, it's like, well, yeah, you want your body to release a little bit more glucose so that you can do the task. But if you get all jacked up before like a conversation or a drive, and you do that day after day after day, your body kind of progressively loses the ability to regulate glucose. Insulin tends to, your body loses sensitivity to insulin, so you have higher blood sugar.
So
More problem, higher
the-
body fat.
Stimulation of glucose release is only bad on a chronic state, not
I think so, yeah. And stress is really only bad in a chronic state. Like an intense workout is fine. But if you're chronically intensely working out 5 days a week, or maybe even 3 days a week, it's like, you know, our bodies can't recover from that and come back stronger and keep us healthy. And we know, like we've seen the research studies that like colds are more frequent in people that don't exercise and people that exercise often and intensely. The people that get the least sick are those that exercise moderately, consistently. All right, right, so let's talk about now how stress affects breathing and breathing affects stress. So what's all this rib cage stuff that we've been talking about, and why does it matter? So when we're in a stress position, like when we're like freaked out about something and need to handle it, like if you saw a mountain lion, would you go into this posture or this posture? The second one, right?
Ladder.
The ladder, yeah. So let me draw those two rib cages. This is chill Matt, and this is
Angry Matt.
freaked out Frank.
You should call him Matt the cat.
Freaked out Matt.
Mellow Matt and freaked out Frank.
So chill Matt, his cage, here's his spine, nice natural curve. Here's his pelvis posteriorly tilted. And here's what?
It's like Jill Matt's wearing a diaper.
He's not at all. Chill Matt is not wearing a diaper.
Oh, your rectum does relax.
So here's chill Matt. Chill Matt's diaphragm is in a nice dome shape, like it's supposed to be. Chill Matt is able to go back and forth, side to side. His diaphragm domes as he exhales. As he inhales, it flattens out. It pulls the lungs down. Air comes in as he exhales. Make sense? That's chill Matt. Freaked out Matt, on the other hand, he's pretty straight through his thoracic spine, and then his lumbar spine.
His cage is flared.
Cage is flared, bro. His pelvis is tilted forward, and his cage is flared. So his diaphragm is topped flat all the time. Instead of going from a parachute to a pancake as he breathes, it's stuck as a pancake all the time. And he can never get into domed, relaxed state. And this diaphragm, brain, breathing relationship plays a big role in our body's release of stress hormones. So if you're stuck in diaphragm pulling forward as a postural stabilizer instead of as a breathing muscle, things like cortisol are going to be chronically elevated. Your body's going to, like we talked about, release glucose more often. You're going to store fat more easily. And people like this, when they get stuck in this position or stuck on one side, they tend to have more pain issues because they overuse the same muscles again and again and again. They breathe with muscles they're not supposed to breathe with, like their upper traps, their sternocleidomastoids, their rectus capitis in the back of their head, so tension headaches, upper neck tension. Like, these are the common things that these people have. We talked about how if you're constantly in stress mode, you don't get blood to your stomach, so they have gastroesophageal reflux disorder, like tons and tons of problems that can be avoided. So this plays a big role in the nervous system, and it's driven by the nervous system. So it's like this vicious snowball cycle where people get stuck in it. Cool? So that's why the rib cage thing is so stinking important, and I don't want to just blow past this if you guys have questions. So what questions do you have about the rib cage? The rib cage goes down, back, and in. What happens to the diaphragm?
Domes.
It domes. Good. And what happens to the lungs? They get bigger or smaller? Smaller. Less air. Exhale. CO2 filled air gets out. We can then take an inhale. Rib cage expands, diaphragm pulls down, it yanks the young lungs down, and air comes in. Oxygen. Now if your body's deprived of oxygen, I can't think of anything more stressful than that. I don't know if you've ever tried to hold your breath underwater, but it's a pretty stressful process. Imagine kind of doing that all day. If you're overinflated with your lungs, chronically overinflated, and you can never get bad air out and good air in sufficiently, and you're always like trying to yank your bird cage up using your neck and your upper back muscles instead of breathing like we're made to breathe with our rib cage. It's going to be a very stressful process for your body.
So question.
Go for it.
So this causes stress. What stress causes this?
Both.
Okay, so both first. Okay, so they just.
They feed into each other.
Good question, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, if you're chronically stressed, you're going to take, like, the sympathetic nervous system tends to cause big inhales, small exhales. So, and if you never exhale fully, what happens to your diaphragm? Is it a parachute or a pancake?
It's a pancake.
It's a pancake, yeah. The parasympathetic nervous system, on the other hand, causes shorter inhales, longer exhales. So you load up that spring so that when you inhale, the diaphragm pulls the lungs down instead of the accessory muscles like the upper traps, the neck, trying to pull the rib cage up. Cool. All right. We're going to move past this breathing thing into asymmetry. So, we as humans are asymmetrical. We're not the same on the right side and the left. You look in the mirror, and it kind of seems like, yeah, I'm pretty similar. My mom always used to tell me, you have very symmetrical ears. So one day, you're going to meet a girl, and she's just going to think your ears are so nice because they're the same on both sides. And Nicole doesn't even appreciate it. So, is that true?
Your ears are nice.
Thank you.
But I think, there's lots of studies that have been done on, that have shown that like you're more naturally drawn to more symmetrical features.
Yeah.
Faces, Kate Shannon, that's why.
Yes, she does. We're naturally more drawn to symmetry. That's kind of the opposite of what we're talking about today.
I know.
So yeah, people are actually very asymmetrical. And do you guys think that's a good thing, bad thing?
It's kind of how we were made.
Yeah.
Our organs are what they are, so
Sure.
let's not rearrange them to make sure we're symmetrical.
Yeah. Well, let's start up top. Let's start with the brain. So you guys have heard, I'm sure, that we have a right brain and a left brain, and they do different things. So our left brain is responsible for speech and language development. And that makes it kind of the more dominant, controlling hemisphere of the brain. So the left brain is quote-unquote stronger than the right. And then the left brain controls what side of our body?
Right.
The right side, yeah, there's a crossover at the corpus callosum on both sides, and the neurons that sense and control each side of the body come from the opposite side of our brain. So those left side neurons wire us to be more right side dominant. And that's why you see a lot more people right-handed, right-footed. Anybody left-handed here?
No lefty trash in here.
Sorry to all future people that are lefties.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it starts with the brain, and then as we work our way down our body, we've got tons of things that are different side to side. We've got a heart that sits on what side? The left. Yes. We've got a liver on the right. Right under the right diaphragm that gives it leverage and something to push off of. We've got a spleen over here on the left that's really tiny compared to the liver on the right. 2 lobes of lung on the left, 3 on the right. And then not to mention the diaphragm is bigger on the right side, like 2 to 3 times larger. It domes better. When you guys read through the document on how we're asymmetrical, you'll see it's like I put a bunch of stats in there. But really all you need to know is that the right side diaphragm is bigger, it's better positioned for breathing the left side diaphragm is flatter, better positioned for postural stability. Just naturally, we're hardwired that way. And that's fine. That's how God made us. It's normal. What's not normal is when people get stuck far, far into a pattern of moving. And whether that's like a right side dominant pattern or a wide open, both sides flared kind of pattern, that's where problems start to arise, when they get stuck in those sort of patterns over the course of years or decades. So on the right, we have a diaphragm that's larger, stronger, and creates more of a pull. And that diaphragm pulls us to the right. So imagine this with me. The diaphragm has attachments to your spine, and it creates a rightward pull on the lumbar spine on the right side. Literally rotates us to the right. The right pelvis follows suit. So you got a right-sided diaphragm pulling right on the lumbar spine, and then the right pelvis follows suit. And so what that does is it creates a left side that's more externally rotated and more flexed and abducted, and a right side that's more internally rotated, extended, and adducted. That's just how people, that's like the pattern that people are going to gravitate towards. So if you guys all stand up, and let's do this together.
You too, Chuck. Let's go.
Yeah, Chuck.
I'm here. I'm up.
So go ahead and imagine your right diaphragm just kind of like pulling you to the right. Yeah, you're in right stance now. So drop your right hip down. Hang out on the right foot. Feel your right rib cage pull down. So the right hip is pulled back, the left hip is pulled where?
Forward.
Forward. Yep, that's the opposite of back. The right hip is relatively internally rotated compared to the pelvis, because your pelvis just went like this, and your right foot stayed forward. So now your right hip is effectively internally rotated, the left hip is external. The right hip just got adducted or went across your body, the left hip got abducted or went out. So that's the position that our breathing pulls us into. And you'll start to see people, they stand on their right foot more often than their left. Not everyone, not every time, but more often than not, people stand like Chuck is standing right now in this like right stance position. Can they see that, camera? Just how I'm standing?
It cuts you off right at your hips.
Okay. Can you just push it down a little bit?
No, I'd love to.
You probably have to do it on the...
There you go. Beautiful.
So it goes like that. So obviously we wouldn't walk around in a circle all day. And in order to correct that right stance position, what people do is they rotate their thoracic spine to the left, and they open their left rib cage up. So essentially people walk around like this with the left rib cage that's flared and open and up on the left side. Yeah, so it probably doesn't feel good to hang out in that position, but play around with that a little bit. So sit back and to the right, and in order to come back, move from your thoracic spine. Left rib cage flares. 1 minute.
And then until we switch the
Okay, you can just switch it now. Questions on that?
going.
Hi, welcome. So anyways, this asymmetrical patterning tends to create common muscles that get tight and overused, and common muscles that get weak and underused. So on we're going to talk about the chains pretty soon of muscles that we have, but if you can just imagine, if this hip is kind of pulled back, the muscles that are going to be stronger are on the back side. So like the hamstrings, the inner thigh. On the left side, it's the opposite. It's the ones in the front. So like the vastus lateralis, the hip flexors, the TFL. All these left-sided muscles are usually more tight on the left side than the right in people. We'll even see a lot of people that have thicker TFLs on the left side than the right. So yeah, people that do asymmetrical activities that tend to bias them to the left usually have unique things going on, but they're still human beings. They still have the same innate kind of patterning built into them, and we still kind of treat them the same and see them the same. So you guys can imagine, like, if the wheels on a car are not aligned, what happens to the car wheel, to the tires?
Wear out faster.
They wear out faster. So that's the analogy I usually use with people, like if we're doing a corrective exercise on one side and not the other, even though it's a lot more complicated than that, I'll usually just say like, hey, we're helping to optimize your body's alignment and position. Just like the wheels on a car, if they're not aligned, the tires wear out faster. It's the same with your body. So we're optimizing that.
Like that.
You like that? It's a good analogy. Cool. All right, we're going to shift into talking about posture. So traditionally, posture is viewed as like, yeah, this like very upright, tall sort of thing, and it's all about like, look at someone from the side, drop a line down their head, rib cage, and pelvis should all line up. And unfortunately, that's a very narrow-minded view of posture, when in reality, posture is a combination of our brain, of our organs, of our muscles and bones and connective tissue. All of it together combines to create posture. Posture changes as we move. Like as you're going through a squat, you're still posturing. As you're going through a lunge, you're still posturing. When you're picking up a kid off the ground, you're still in a posture. And so those things all play a role in the word posture. And it's comprised of, like we're talking about, many, many different things. So we talk about good posture, and good posture is actually a lot more dynamic and moving than static. So people think if I just would, hold myself up straight and keep my chin high, like I'd be in good posture. And unfortunately, traditional good posture, what does it do to the diaphragm?
Flattens it.
Flattens it out, pancakes it, pulls it taut. So what I tell people, and this is very kind of difficult for them to grasp usually, is get to the end of an exhale, feel your sternum, your breastbone go down, back, and in, and then hold it there, and then relax your arms, let them do what they normally do. There's good posture right there. Keep your belt buckle up, kind of tucked, like that's good posture. And you could move from there, but if you just need kind of like a reset, then breastbone down, back, and in. That'll put you in good posture.
Is there anything to do with your head while you're in that? Like, so a lot of people like are here. Do you think about anything with your head, or you just let it be where it's gonna be after you?
I mean, eyes should be on the horizon,
Okay.
so
Just like that. Okay.
eyes should be straight ahead.
Straight.
Yeah. So you definitely don't want people here.
Right.
And if they have been in a very kyphotic posture for a long time, they may gravitate towards that. Yeah, working on a computer or something. But yeah, if we can, most of the time, if you get people to exhale, really good things happen.
Okay.
Yeah. So posture gets thrown out for one of three reasons. One would be just overactive or underactive muscles. So if we have a chain, if our body's patterned to go one way, like towards the right, the left hip flexor, left TFL, that muscle's going to get tighter and drag our left hip forward and posture it in a different position than the right hip. Same thing with our upper body. It's like the right abs are going to be stronger than the left just because of this sort of thing, that right-sided posture. So overactive, underactive muscles can drive our posture and throw us out of whack. Two would be the respiratory system. So our breathing can push us out of whack. And when our left rib cage gets flared, open, pushed forward, it's almost like there's this big beach ball of air stuck on the left side of our body. And you can imagine if you have more air, like air causes things to change. If you have a bunch of air on the left side of your body, it's going to cause you to get pushed more over to the right. You're going to use more of the right side. And then the third is our brain. the nervous system. If we're constantly directed and connected to the right side but not the left, we're going to have more of a draw to get pushed right. So kind of there's all these different things that push us right. And our job is to make sure we balance things out. That's why we do lots of unilateral movements with our clients. That's why we try to get the left rib cage down, back, and in. Yeah, and so you guys are going to get this question, which is why I'm curious to hear your answers. But if we're made this way, like if God made us this way, like why is it a problem? Yeah, go for it.
We were made with a parasympathetic and a sympathetic nervous system. They still have to be in balance.
Yeah.
Even though we're chronically pushed toward one, we have to actively make it, restore that balance. Same thing with the different sides of our body.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. I haven't heard that one before. It's a great connection. I like to use the analogy of like, well, yeah, like we're hardwired to be biased towards one side, but if we live normal lives, like we're made to live where we walked a lot, we didn't harbor stress and anxiety, we ate good food, we probably wouldn't have the problems that we have. Our bodies would be able to go back and forth, side to side. But because of the way we live today, we get stuck in a pattern. And our job is to help people to get unstuck, kind of push them back towards symmetry and balance. Questions on that?
You're not really pushing them back to symmetry because there's naturally asymmetry.
I misspoke. So we're creating more awareness of the other positions that they can access. We're giving them access back to their left side in the way that they're made to access it. Let's go out there.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to talk about the chains of muscles, and then we'll be done for today. So PRI talks about 4 different chains of muscles in the human body. The TMCC, which is the muscles of the neck and the face and the head, like all this stuff, they don't talk about it a ton in their primary courses, so I don't know that much about it. We're not going to talk about that much. We're not going to talk about it that much as a staff, but just for you guys to know, that's one of the 4 chains of muscles. The 3 primary ones, you have the PEC, which is the posterior exterior chain. So most of the muscles in the PEC are on the back side of our body. They're also on the outside of our body. Lats, paraspinals, the muscles that run up and down our spine. The QL, quadratus lumborum. So put your hands back here, and your hands are on your PEC chain. It's all back here. The lats like even wrap under our armpit and connect into our shoulders. So if those muscles are really tight, what posture would you be in? Yeah, you'd be here. Most bodybuilders, every bodybuilder. Now the PEC, the posterior exterior chain, is opposed by 2 pairs of chains on the front side of our body. The brachial chain, which is like here, and then the anterior interior chains, which are these guys in here. So the brachial chain, let's talk about first. Brachia, which is like this area up here. It's like our chest, our arms, front of our rib cage. I'll read you guys some of the muscles. Intercostals, the deltoid, sternocleidomastoid, the scalenes, the diaphragm. Is that part of the BC? I thought that was part of the AIC.
I think it's both.
Both. And then the AIC chain is diaphragm, psoas, iliopsoas, which is our hip flexor, our TFL, vastus lateralis, all these muscles like on the front side of our body. Some of them are more internal, so anterior, interior chain, because a lot of them are deeper inside of us. Question?
Why differentiate the two?
Differentiate the two.
Yeah. Like between the 2 different front chains, the muscles. What's the main difference?
Yeah, so the main difference is where they're located, and the left AIC tends to be dominant, and the right BC tends to be dominant, so they're opposite. So it's like these muscles, people are usually more right abs, right chest are tighter, and then left hip flexor, left TFL, left vastus lateralis are stronger, tighter, which makes a lot of sense because if you're pulled into right stance, then all these muscles on the left, all these muscles on the right are going to be stronger.
The diaphragm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Left side.
AIC's diaphragm. So it took me a while to wrap my head around the 4 chains, and I just explained it in like 30 seconds. So, what questions do you guys have about the chains? So your left BC up here, right BC,
What is BC?
brachial chain. Left AIC, all through here, left anterior chain of muscles, right AIC over here. PEC, have on the back. So we'll refer to patients as PECs, which means they overuse their muscle in the back. They'll tend to look like this.
Are the back chains broken up, or are we just like considering all the different
It's-
sides as one,
Yeah,
kind of the same?
you could talk about a right versus a left PEC, I think, but they usually just talk about it together because usually people are tight enough. No, that's a good point. They're not broken up. So if you talk about someone as a PEC, that means their posterior exterior chains are both tight and kind of pulling them like this. Whereas somebody that's a right EC, left AIC, which is the common pattern, means their right brachial chain is overactive, left is underactive, right like backside muscles are overactive, front side muscles are overactive. And basically what we do is we try to reverse it all. So that's why we try to get left abs going, left hamstring, left adductors, and then, this is like the opposite of the pattern that people get driven into. So, last thing, we're going to do this together, and then we'll wrap up for today. Stand on your right foot, let your body get pulled to the right, and then rotate kind of back like you're walking. Good. So your right arm should be forward. Stand on your right side. There you go. Yeah, you had it. Right arm forward. Yep. So that's like and then turn your head to the right. This is our bodies where it would naturally go if we let it. So let's do the exact opposite. Shift over to the left, bring your left rib cage down, open up the right, left arm comes up, right arm goes back, turn your head to the left. Inhale. Which side of your chest do you feel stretching? Right, beautiful. Exhale. Feel your left rib cage go down, back, and in. Inhale. Feel the right side open out. Exhale. Anybody feel a stretch in their right QL area? Mostly the right chest. A little bit. Both. Cool. So to wrap up, the body's asymmetrical. Our breathing drives it. Our internal organs drive it, and our brain drives it. And if you guys can walk out of today knowing people are asymmetrical, they tend to have common patterns of asymmetry. And starting next week, we're going to learn, how do we assess for those common asymmetries that people have, and then what do we do about it? How do we integrate into our programming a way to move people out of the asymmetries that they have and back into, I don't want to say symmetry, that's a good point, but back into I can get onto my left side and my right side like I was made to. Cool. What questions do you guys have?